2026 meeting of the Orleans Fire Rescue Building Committee. If you wish to attend via Zoom or attend via phone, the agenda item gives the connections to do that. I'm going to call the meeting to order. And in attendance, starting on my left, we have Chief Jeff Deering, DPW Director Rich Waldo, Peter Canine. Rick C. does not appear to be with us this evening, and I don't see that he's online. Select Board Member Mark Matheson, OES Representative Kathy McNamara, Emily Miller. Online, and we have Laura St. John Dupuy, our Executive Secretary. Online, we have Mark Reel, Amanda Converse, and Christina Tanios. So the first item on our agenda is public comment. Is there anyone for public comment?
Afternoon, Scott Zanke, Doan Road. Been following along as I was a member of the first building committee, and I know we've got a rather sizable retaining wall that's going to be holding two different grades as the fire department or the firehouse gets built. Ted, you had mentioned driving sheeting. Don't know if you've ever used Hellfiker wire retaining wall. It's not something that's used in Massachusetts that much. Connecticut, we used it all over the place in doing this type of fill. You're all familiar with what welded wire is. It's generally used if you're pouring a sidewalk or pouring a slab. You'll see wires, which is a 4 gauge or 6 gauge on a 6x6 square. Each intersection is welded. It goes down rather easy. It's a form of reinforcement. Basically, Hellfiker, which is a family-owned company out in California, has taken this, and it's a heavier gauge, but it's a 20 by 8 foot sheet with the last 2 feet is turned up, so it's at a right angle. Against that right angle, you'll put a filter fabric in which holds your material, and you lay your two lifts at 12-inch deep on each lift, get your compaction. You tie your next sheet in on top of that one and keep going up. So basically, I think you said we're doing about 22 feet of fill?
Depends, but possibly, yes. Yep.
So at the worst case scenario, about 11 lifts. As you could probably tie it into the existing retaining wall on the south side of the firehouse and then bring it across the parking lot. Obviously there you just remove some of the blacktop. I don't think you'd have to touch that gas line that goes through there. You'd be going over the top of it. As you make the turn and come up the driveway, you either may be under the building or, which is going to be filled anyways, or you can cut your sheets back depending on what your geotech says. But it's dollar-wise is cheaper because you don't have to have an actual schedule. 4 laborers can put this stuff in place as you're going. So there should be some savings in there. When you're done, you leave it in place. If you've got to do any drainage where you would cut through once the other side is built up, a pair of wire cutters will take this thing apart. So just wanted to bring it to
And
anybody's attention.
how do you spell that, Scott?
Hilfiker.
Great.
All righty. Thank you. Thanks for what you're doing.
Thank you very much.
That's great.
Any other public comment? Okay, I guess we'll turn the meeting over to Rick and Ted.
Good evening. There will come a time when I'll have more to present, but right now it's the Galante show. But just to give you an update, the geotech work is beginning. It'll begin next Monday. So we'll be doing our soil borings and gathering that information, as we had described before, is going to be very important to help design all of the structures on site and the retaining walls so that we can make some decisions. And thank you very much for that information. I haven't personally used that, but we'll take a look at it. Progress has been very good. The department has had a lot of meaningful discussions with the design team and refinement of the floor plans, and that will continue during the design development phase. But I feel we're in a really good place right now. The design team has been looking at massing, and we'll talk about that this evening. And I don't want to steal any of Ted's thunder here, so I'm going to just turn it over to him and be here for any questions if you have any.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. As is typical, we have a long presentation. I'll try and go through it quickly, interrupt as need be, or we can always go back to questions at the end. What I'll say is the site plan is developing, and part of what we're going to look at tonight is a little bit of response to some of the comments we heard last time, some of the comments from everyone in the group, and so I'll try and point those out. But if I miss them, somebody chime in. Building plans are pretty close to set. We've been working with the fire department in a great way. That's been really good communication. And so we started to say, what does the building start to look like, right? And I think we talked about this a couple weeks ago. We won't know what the building looks like until we start to really land a number of issues. But we wanted to put a few options on the table just to start the conversation and see where things go. So I'll go through quickly proposed floor plans, proposed site plan, proposed floor plans, project precedents, and then massing concepts, right? These are just concepts. There's nothing settled. So site plan, just kind of clean with no notes on it. We see the fire rescue building facing Eldridge Parkway. It's a two-story building. The ground around is now made a bit flat. Parking is in the back, and the OES side we have the access and entrance way on the right for fire, on the left for OES. And you might notice, just maybe I should go down to the next slide. There is a bus turnout, which we heard last time, the concern for a bus turnout, so there's a possible place for that to happen. Some parking, up at there are 44 spots in the parking. I think, just to point it out, that's the bus turnout piece. That's parking. I think we neglected to show the sidewalk last time. The sidewalk's been put back on there. So just to I want to make sure people know that they're being heard, and then we're looking at those things. This is not a final design. This is just developing the concept and making sure people are understand that we're listening and that we're focusing on that. This side hasn't changed all that much. I think everything here is pretty much as we had discussed. This is the main entrance. This is the apron area, and then that would be the second means going in there. Again, floor plans, the adjustments have been small, and they're in keeping with department needs and moving things along that way. Happy to go over any of these in any detail as need be. So we started to look at precedents and what other buildings in and around, and we kept it short just to look at a few and talk about possible buildings that were built in recent times. This is the Wellfleet Fire Department with, we started to look at the building, if it has large overhead glass doors, the shape and geometry of the building, how it was built, how it started to weather, very, typical cedar shingle siding, red brick base, asphalt roofs to, sort of looking at a material palette a little bit, looking at your own police station with wood siding, some white trim and asphalt shingles everywhere. Looking at the more recent building in Provincetown, which has some board and batten cedar siding, and then asphalt shingle roof. A little more contemporary looking, maybe transitional between, a peaked roof and traditional materials, more contemporary view overall. And so we started to say, okay, what are the concepts? How does this building floor plan start to turn into massing. And when we talk about massing, we're talking about generally the size and shape of the building. We don't have the windows settled. The overhead doors are kind of settled where they are because that's a big thing. But building windows haven't been settled, and we're starting to look at some of the parts and pieces of what how the massing might come together. The building, Eldridge Parkway, is down here, just to kind of put everyone in context. This is a north arrow, so the sun rises in the east and it sets in the west, right? So it rises here, goes along and sets over here. And so we said, okay, one criteria for the building is to, and this is a roof plan, by the way, just to be clear about that. One criteria is that the building needs to be net zero. And so we're starting to look at a roof that works with the sun, right? So this is a concept of rooftop units. We don't know how big they're going to be yet. We don't know how many they're going to be. There's going to be a couple of them. There will be fans, there will be vents, but we're starting to make sure that we don't see those things from the street. So that's one of the ways that we're starting. So this is a rooftop full of photovoltaic panels, solar panels, that we call the net zero concept. And we start to see the apparatus bays here. And this side of the building is all the living quarters. There's a fitness room on this side, a day room on this side, and then the command staff offices are up above. And then there's a training tower in the back. And so this is, we don't know the material yet. Maybe it's brick, maybe it's siding. That's why we looked at the other. We're starting to conceptualize on looking at the other materials, but this is really a way of saying to the world that this building is dedicated to net zero, that Orleans is dedicated to sustainability. And so this is working with the sun. This is a solar panel kind of roof canopy at the front of the building. This is a Cape Cod influenced trellis that is really managing the sun in these windows, the windows that are at the command staff. So we're managing the sun that way. And these are solar panels that would help generate electricity for the building. A view from the rear, from the parking lot side, overhead doors again, training tower, and some kind of welcoming trellis. Here we're not working with the sun as much as creating a place, a plaza, an entrance that is inviting and has sort of a little bit of covering before you go into the actual building. So one enters the building, the public enters the building on this side. There are vehicles leaving this side. And there's going to be some designation on the ground and ways of keeping people safe and on different areas. From a street kind of view, we don't have the street in, the model isn't fully built, but you start to see that we're not seeing anything on the roof. We're not seeing rooftop units and such, and we're trying to make sure that we don't do that as we move forward. But you do start to see shadows along here that are going to help protect those windows, and the solar panels along the front that make it clear that Orleans is a net zero building. So that's one concept. Oops, I moved the slide. Oh, I didn't realize I could do that. Good, I can center it. Thank you. That was bothering me. The next concept is really kind of a police station replica concept. There's been a talk about making the building look historically similar to the police station. A tougher building to put solar panels on, given the sun orientation and such. But we have the apparatus bay here on this side with sloped roofs, gable end roofs, where we're able to tuck the returns back in on either side, have a hose tower in the back, a training tower in the back, and have two gables to break up the massing, one living quarters, one vehicle circulation and storage. And just to be sure, some of these, you'll start to see things like this that are the hints of something on the building. I know I want the chief to be able to look out the window from here and look down at the apron so he can see rigs coming and going. When I have a roof like this, I'm having trouble getting windows in the front of the building, so I don't love that, so we didn't do it yet. but when you see, that's a door that's going to be going in and out of the building. These guys are training tower doors that we're still working on. You'll see them on the rear of the building. You'll see them on the side. Those are for the department to be able to put a ladder up there and get themselves, do some training up there. So that starts to, in the back, we have an entrance back here, but visually it starts to replicate some of the conditions that are at the police station. I don't know why it keeps staying over there. That's street view. And we haven't located rooftop units and such yet on this. We'd probably carve them into the roof or put them in the attic space. And keep them inside, which is another possibility. We have two more. So this one, this one we're calling the transitional concept. It's sort of between, these are solar panels on the apparatus bay roof, a couple of rooftop units. This is the roof over the living quarters with a trellis in the front, and the tower is back here. The training tower is in the back. And it starts to look like this, where we have a roof facing Eldridge Parkway here that's sloping toward the vehicles. Solar panels in the back to generate as much electricity as possible. We could put solar panels on this side as another a possible scenario. And again, we have a trellis on this side because it helps evoke living quarters, office space, more residential than industrial, right? The fire trucks are really stored in a really robust industrial scale garage, and then the living quarters and the office space is much more sort of domestic in scale. And so that's how we're starting to think about that. Let's see, page down. From the rear, a similar. And also, we're starting to think about some kind of massing or breaking up the massing with a texture here. In fact, I didn't talk about that back here, but this is one scale, and it helps break up the scale of the building. We have already this part of the floor plan poking out further, and then the building is set back a little bit, so we have a little bit of a breakdown of the overall mass of the building. This is an attempt to do the same thing where we have one material here and then another material, and it helps the building seem just more manageable in size. Similar pedestrian scale would walk up to a smaller scale material, and the rest of the building would have a larger mass. Training tower, we're also starting to think about separating the training tower from the building a little bit, maybe pulling it forward, maybe pushing it to the side. We're working on that. Again, apparatus coming out of this way, the solar panels on that side, and from the street, making sure we don't see anything, but it looks more like a larger barn and a garage on that side. There's another one that you did not get in your packet because we were still working on it. We call it Two Gables. And so this is, Eldridge is down here, one gable end here, another gable end here, really trying to match each other based on the massing of the building. The width of the building from here to here is about the same dimension as here to here. And then this is an ambulance bay. We haven't made anything smaller. We just put a low slope roof on that so that we can have visual separation between them. But you'll notice in the back, this is a ridge, and that is centered on the rear elevation where people enter. And so I'll show you that one. So this idea is similar, where we have the lower floor just does jut out. The offices are up here. We have a sort of a cantilevered piece of the roof that extends over. Same here, cantilevering over a little bit, having the massing being smaller, more, I don't say residential in scale because I don't think we're doing a residential scale building. It's really quite a big building. But we've broken up the massing so that it's a little smaller, and that one bay is tucked back a little bit, which is an ambulance bay. And so you'd have really 4 bays forward and 1 bay back, so it would help recede a little bit and break up the large scale of the building into 3 smaller volumes, 2 more prominent, but one of them being broken down in a few different elements as it goes along. Rear of the building, same sort of idea. This roof extends over And here you start to see the tower is actually pulled forward a little bit because we're trying to break up the scale of that piece as well. And then the entrance is on this side, again with a little overhang, and then the other bay. And so from the street, same sort of idea, gable end roof lines, breaking up the massing into thirds as opposed to, and so that's kind of the study where it stands now. This is, a few weeks worth of pulling things together, and I think I'll pause here for any discussion or any questions.
Rick, do you want to add anything first, or no?
When the police station was, the design was being considered with that, the mandate was to keep it small scale cottage look, which required a lot of effort because of the floor massing of the building. In this scenario, the building's so large, I think it's almost impossible to accomplish that with and have it look effective. I'm just seeing the two gables for the first time. I like the idea of that because it breaks things up. It's not visually as big of a building, which I think would be important. One of the mandates is net zero, so we have a lot of conflicting goals here, to establish a net zero. I don't know if we can do that with a gabled roof. I don't know how many panels we could get on, say, if we went with the two gable option or looked at pursuing that more, how much solar use we could get out of those. I like the flat roof scenario too, because it's a departure from, that's probably not going to be too popular in Orleans, but I think it's a departure from what we're always used to seeing.
It's the most cost effective.
What?
It's the most cost effective.
Most cost effective, it gives you the most solar opportunity.
And one of our charges, as you're aware, is doing our best to create a net zero building.
Right.
Right. We're doing a building in Exeter, New Hampshire. Hannah is the architect for that building, and it's a 12,000 square foot roof area, I think was the number, somewhere 11 or 12,000 square feet, 22,000 square foot building, and we could not generate enough power with a 12,000 square foot array for that size building, and we had to add a solar canopy over parking in the back. It's police and fire combined. But the 24-hour nature of these buildings make it harder to make them net zero. And so we're confident in the net zero version having enough solar coverage. We're not as confident in the others, though I like some of the others quite well. So I'm just, in terms of net zero, that's one of the comments.
So why don't we start with you, Mark, and we'll kind of go around the table.
Yeah, Ted, and I know you don't have things anywhere close to finalized, but a couple of comments. One, we were looking at a storage building at the back of the property that I think we talked about roughly 100 feet by 30 feet,
That's right.
which would give us the potential for south-facing pitched roof, totally solar paneled.
We have not, we didn't study the massing of that, but that could also be added to the mix,
So I
yes.
think, we should be looking at that
Yeah.
in any way, shape, or form. The second question I had, and again, I understand we're at such a preliminary stage, but whether we're, any of the iterations up here, when you look at that east wall, that long east wall that goes from the bays back to the training tower, that's the thing that people are gonna see, not only from the middle school fields and coming down Eldridge Parkway from Nauset Beach and 28, you're gonna see that face of the building. And I think it's important that we break that up. And I don't know if it would be windows in there to have natural light in those bays, which again, I think would be important in terms of net zero.
No, it's a great idea. And daylight harvesting is what we
Yeah.
call it, is one of, having
Get
big
as,
windows.
You know, as many, windows there that would break up that long face. And then the other question I have is, each of the iterations has the living quarters office area jutting out from the bays closer to Eldridge Parkway.
Yes.
So I'm wondering if, again, I understand we're in early stage here, but having, at that lower level anyway, as open as possible so that, I'm just envisioning the ambulances coming out of there or the trucks coming out of there, and they're blind on that right side because of the building sticking out. I mean, they are coming out onto but,
Yes, I totally get it.
so
View
more
lines.
visibility.
Yep.
Come through, and again, I know that we're not looking at any drawings that have windows and fenestration in
Yeah,
it in
yep.
any way, shape, or form, but just,
Totally get it.
can I ask another question that's like a little bit? No, I'll save that for later. I'm done. I'm good.
Emily?
So just to be clear, you're saying the net zero, the one that's called net zero, is the only one you know can be totally net? You're confident?
I don't think he's saying that.
Oh,
I think I'm confident that I can get the most solar panels on that building
Okay.
and get it as close to net zero.
Oh, right.
I do feel like that one is doable as net zero. There's a whole energy model process and calculation and yada yada. Just given our experience, given the size of the roof, I have a lot more confidence in that building get to net zero than I have at any of the other three.
Yeah. Okay, that's really what I was
And it's
asking.
not my favorite, by the way, but it is. But I know that we have that. That's a big piece. The net zero is a big piece, and
The
so I want
flat
to just
roof- the
put that
true
out there.
roof area,
Yeah.
yeah. So I'm wondering with the roofs, with a big flat roof like that, with like rain and snow, how does that work? I mean, I'd also have concerns about the different roof, like, because we've had this at our house, which is a very much smaller scale, but like the roofs coming together definitely can be problematic with precipitation.
Totally agree.
And like,
Yeah.
so how do the different roof scenarios work with? and,
They
like,
get detailed really carefully.
Yeah.
I don't have any problem building flat roofs anywhere in New England. We've been doing it for decades, and it's not really an issue.
Okay.
So I don't have any problem with the roofs. My more concerning to me is the police station replica version with a big valley in between. Having them separated on the two gables, for example, that's how that evolved, was having a roof in there that's flatter. So there's ways of managing it, but they're all doable. I think that the police station replica is the toughest one of the four. So, yeah.
Kathy?
On the transitional one, it's probably preliminary, but is the roof as it's drawn, is it a metal roof? Or is it?
Yes. So we're thinking about metal roofs on some of them. That's exactly right. That's a good
Okay.
comment, Kathy. Thank you. The transitional one, we're thinking about metal roofs. One of the concerns we have about the transitional is being very careful not to put snow on
Yeah.
the apron, right? So it helps the scale of the building by sloping the roof toward and bring the scale of the building down, right? A lot of New England houses have the roof sloping toward the front, toward the street. It's not great for public safety buildings. We have to put it on the table to talk about it. I think having a gable run that way is more sensible from a public safety needing to get out quickly.
Yeah,
But
that was my next, was there, how
Yeah.
do you do gutters if you?
snow guards, gutters, all of those things
Yeah.
would be part of the equation. We did just build a version like this in Dennis, and they have a sloping roof. It's asphalt, but they have a sloping roof in that direction, and we managed it.
But metal's great, it lasts forever.
Yes, it does.
So it's-
Absolutely right.
That was my only question.
So, before we get to you, Peter, the one thing I want to point out, and I'm reading this from our charge, our committee serves as an advisory role, making recommendations but not final decisions on design, finances, contracts, scheduling. Final authority resides with the select board. So that being said, I think it's important that, and we're supposed to appear or I'm supposed to appear before the select board on April 1st. And I don't think, I'm sure each one of us is going to have our favorite
Sure.
choice, but I think, given the nature of time in town meeting, that spending a little bit more time on these four options, I think would be important for us to bring before the select board on the 1st of April. I don't think today we can say to you, you like option 4, go for it.
I totally respect that. I think the way we talked about it last time, correct me if I'm wrong, is that we talked about developing a few like this, 3, 4, and that we would start to socialize these and get to one by mid-May, or maybe not, but talk about this being the general direction, and then May, June, we would select one of them and move it forward. So I don't think we were looking for a definitive decision. We certainly will spend more time on them over the next 2 weeks. And then as a side caveat, I can't be at that meeting on April 1st. I would like, before the select board voted or took a direction on these, I would like to be in the conversation with them as sort of a sidebar.
Of
I
course,
suppose.
of course,
yeah,
but
yeah.
I think it would be helpful to have these concepts for that, if they could just be,
Flushed out a bit more. Sure, I agree with you.
because the net zero charge is huge.
Yeah.
And I don't know how the select board is going to respond to that, but hearing this evening that the flat-roofed one is the most economical
Yeah.
and the most close to net zero, it seems to be going in the way our charge has given us.
Yeah.
So that being said, Peter, go ahead.
I don't think this needs to relate to the police station. The police station is a much, much smaller building. It's in a more suburban setting. And I think when you look at this, I mean, for example, if you come from Eldridge Parkway, it works fine as a billboard type of building. I mean, you have the scales of the athletic fields, you have the middle school, we have the elementary school on the other side. I think where this gets a little more critical is the immediate elevations on Eldridge Parkway itself. So for me, I think one of the things that helps that out is some of the pitched roofs, at least as far as what it looks like from Eldridge Parkway. Now, that doesn't mean we couldn't use partially pitched roofs and a lot of flat
Yep.
to help with the PV thing.
Yep.
But I think the pitched roofs do relate a little more to some of the other common architecture around town, and still, solve the problem. Yeah, so for me, I think either the transitional or the two gables seems to be the more comfortable statement, but
The scale of the fields is a really good observation, Peter. Thank you for
Yeah.
that. That's a really good observation. Yeah.
Rich?
So, thank you. I mean, I don't want to duplicate what the other members said, but a couple of things that, rise to my interest is obviously water, stormwater, flat roofs, intersecting hips and gables, what that's going to look like. I know you said you feel pretty confident with any flat roof in New England. I agree. I think technology came a long way, but you probably heard over the years, seaside birds, shells, cracking shells, picking at the roof. I'm sure you heard all those arguments.
We
And I
used to
still-
ballast. We used to stone ballast them. Yeah.
Exactly. But still, that massing, that kind of massing on a flat roof does concern me, particularly with so many penetrations for solar infrastructure to put that up. I mean, all those things do make me a little nervous about that. Over time, snow loading, snow sitting up there, finding its way through, and then we get our first drop. I guess my other question for you is, what kind of space do you need for mechanical spaces? I know you didn't get into it that much. I know you have the boxes on the top, more for venting and stuff like that, but are you envisioning you're going to need some space, attic space for air handler systems and, ease of access? And you may not have thought about that, but, hey,
I think given our floor-to-floor height, we're not concerned about needing attic space at all.
Okay, for no mechanicals, you're not going to
No,
need
I don't
the
think the
attic space.
mechanicals would be needing to be in an attic space. No, I
Okay.
think they can be above.
Okay. In terms of natural light, I 100% agree. I think anytime we can maximize natural light, we should. In terms of net zero, I think, that is a charge. We should still be focusing on that, but I don't know if it should make our decision here. I think we'd probably want a little more information whether a solar canopy over parking would actually provide us the same benefit of a net zero building if there was a canopy over parking, because I believe the parking area, both the parking area for the fire station, but as well as the school, maybe canopies over both of those can actually suffice for meeting our net zero, as well as any exploration about geothermal, whether we looked at that. And
We have not looked at geothermal, and that has not been part of the discussion to date. We can, but that's not been part of the discussion to date. I think it's a great idea to look at that. I think that is something we should talk about. We should also have a deeper conversation about what net zero means for, is it this building? Is it town-wide? Are there recs to be bought? I think there's a couple of layers in here that we should. Is the mandate for this building to be standalone net zero, or is there a wider community net zero approach to all of the buildings? And I think that's another layer that we can unpack a little bit, because there are ways of doing that by combining buildings and having a net zero neighborhood or net zero region, or some of the strategies that we've used in
I
the
think
past.
Mark would be able to answer that better, but I believe there is a program, a state program that requires the building to be net zero, but when we get to Mark, he could probably answer that. And I guess my last question is just, I'd like to see the difference in material, long-term maintenance. We're going to be taking maintenance of this building. What does shingles lifespan, versus hardy board? Whether there's actually a new type of hardy board out there that I don't know about, versus brick, versus other materials. So I'd like to look at that. I don't think I'm ready to make a decision on which one, but very good options right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Rich. Keep on about the materials, because we always trying to make them as durable as we can. I'll just add a word of caution. Anything related to cement board panels or hardy board they may seem great, but they're not. And so that's my big concern. But we'll continue that conversation. Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Chief, you want to chime in?
Just a couple things. A number of the points have already been made, but one on the transitional building, that roof slope over the apparatus bays does give me a little bit of pause with snow and water coming down on apparatus or staff. Two, like Rich said, and it has been said, the water on the roof of the flat or the different gables where those meet. Spent most of my career dealing with water leaks in the current building. I don't want to repeat it in the future. With the two gable version, the change in where that ambulance bay is and how it changes the geometry there, I would be worried about the interior space and how that changes operationally or how it affects the department operationally. So I think it would be worthwhile flushing that out. I understand the concept, but I just want to be careful we don't make one decision that causes a problem somewhere else. I do think we need to recognize that the station is proposed to be in a residential neighborhood. It is a busy road, but we have neighbors across the street. We have houses nearby. I think we do need to keep that in mind as how the building fits into that, even if with the elementary school and the middle school and the fields nearby. But we are in a neighborhood there. I would like to explore some of the net zero options a little bit more. I think that's worthwhile, just as was mentioned. And then the maintenance of the building, like Rich said, that's how this goes long-term for our staff, DPW and public building staff, and for the town, I think is important. We need to look at that pretty heavily so that it is not a maintenance headache going forward. So that's what I have right now. Thank you.
Mark Reel.
Thank you. I don't have a whole lot of comments on the buildings. I think that the transitional and the double peak really kind of stand out to me, though. I would add that the idea of the net zero component, producing our own energy with renewables on site is probably preferential. So utilizing if we can't get enough solar on the rooftop, utilizing the parking spaces makes a lot of sense, especially for covering those impervious surfaces that create heat island effect. We can reduce that by covering those with the solar carports. The neighboring property at the Nauset Regional Middle School has those carports for the buses, so there's precedent here and in that region and area of town that is utilizing that type of technology in that way. So I think, to Ted's point about really nailing down what net zero means to the select board, we can work through that as we go along here. And, we're kind of at that point where we need to start to nail that down. But like I said, the idea is really to be producing renewables on site. The community has been purchasing net metering credits for other buildings. We're in the process of constructing our own solar photovoltaic facilities to provide electricity to other buildings on site. So that's the idea going forward, is that we'll be incorporating this type of technology with new construction and major renovations going forward.
That's great. I think that the question of geothermal that came up is a good question that we need to look at. Cambridge Fire Headquarters is a 30,000 square foot building, and we're putting in 22 geothermal wells. Different wall assembly, so a little less insulation that you'd have here because it's an existing building reno, and less roof space for solar. But I would think the number is going to be in the high teens for geothermal wells, depending on depth and other things. So that's something to think about. We can think about that.
Can I ask you a question about that?
Go ahead, Mark.
So, do we have a potential for efficient development of geothermal here, where we're going to be filling to such a great depth a lot of this lot?
I'm not sure I understand your question.
So-
Efficient? They
Well, I
need
mean,
around
you
20
know-
feet around them. Each well needs around 20 feet.
Right.
It's the depth that you have to get down to the groundwater.
So
We
you
don't have a lot of space.
Yeah. I
think
was just
the par-
wondering.
they'd
what,
be
you
in the
know,
parking lot.
I guess I was thinking more like the geothermal systems where you have a coil out in the ground. It's buried. It just absorbs heat from underground,
From the earth, yeah.
from the earth. Where we're going to be filling so much of the lot out there that we could be doing that as opposed to the wells down into the groundwater.
I hear you. So the wells that we're digging now, I think they were scheduled to be 750 feet. We were only able to get to 600. It started out as 18 at 750 feet. But by the time they got down to 600 feet, the frac tank was so full they couldn't go any further, and so we switched and made it 22 at 750. Sorry, at 600, 22 at 600. But there are other systems, and I'm not a geothermal expert, there are other systems that are shallower and run horizontally, fundamentally. What I'll say to the committee is we will spend time studying that process and answer back, because I don't have a great way of responding to that tonight. We have someone called the Green Engineer on our team as a sustainability consultant, and they can help out with that along with our mechanical engineer who you met, CES. So
To that side though, Mark, with those coil type systems or the horizontal systems, we still have to fill the site and compact it to meet the requirements for
Right.
structural. And then we would have to dig it back out to install those systems. So
Yeah.
it'd be great if we could put those systems in while we're backfilling, but that won't give you the proper compaction and settlement for the building. So we'll have to bring everything up and then start digging it out again to install those types of systems, so.
Well, that's not helpful.
No,
Can I ask one other question that's related to, as we're talking about the filling? So, just as an aside to the discussion we're having right now, but tangential to this, and I think appropriate in some ways, there have been questions brought forward about the notion of hanging on to the old station and why have we already talked about getting rid of that and whatnot. So I just want to, I didn't mention this before when we were talking about it, but one of the things that I had been thinking about all along was we had the discussion about the two-level station versus the three-level station, and the amount of fill that was needed and the amount of retaining walls that would be needed to keep the three-level station there. That the present station now, in much of what would be, I think, really usable space if we wanted to hang on to it, would be at that basement garage level. So in order to do that, it would kind of force us to keep the contour of the ground in the lot the way it is now, which we already saw added like 14 million to the cost of the project because of that. So.
And requires us to build a third story. That it
Yeah,
it pushes
would
us
require us
back
to do, yeah.
beyond,
So-
back
so-
is
so
voting in the
hanging
other
on-
direction.
Yeah, hanging on to that building for some potential use would actually make it much, much more expensive to build
Yes.
a new station.
Yes.
Am I wrong in that thinking?
Yeah, it's a very good observation, and we were talking about that just the other day, is that we would, by keeping that building, there's a lot of aspects why the building doesn't work with the, with the plan that we have right now, but the biggest one is that if you want to utilize that basement, which you would have to if you're going to keep the building, we have to stay with the three-story concept. So we take the two-story concept out. It affects operations. It's more expensive to build. Plus, you would have to add in the cost to renovate that building to make it.
Right, yeah, that was a given anyway.
And we would lose a lot of parking that we're creating with the two-story option.
The parking would have to move, I'm going to go all the way to the last slide, I think. Well, maybe it's not going to load, but I have a slide here somewhere, where we did a quick study about that, and it's the one that's not loading. I bet it's this one. We did a quick study about that, and we showed a parking. This is survey. Sorry, this is it. So if we keep this building, we have to fully rebuild this building. The HVAC system has been failing. When I came here in 2020 or 2018, whatever it was, that the HVAC system was failing then. But we'd have to keep, we'd have to renovate the building. We'd have to keep a three-story building. We'd have to build additional retaining walls. We have to move parking back here. And now I got to get somebody to come up the hill that is the ambulance, down through the apparatus bay over to here, and I have to do it all within a 2% slope for ADA. So there are so many reasons to not keep this building.
So
that-
Ted, this sketch would be very helpful, I think, for discussion purposes when we have to talk to people about why we're not keeping the old building. And I'm glad you brought that up, because I get asked that question all the time.
It really impacts, it negatively impacts everything that this committee is trying to do, that the fire department has been focused on doing for years. And it puts us back into a building or a scenario where the building is not dissimilar from your existing building with operational issues and multiple issues. So
And it would cost us a whole lot more money.
Cost a
which is,
whole lot more
I think
money.
what people were.
And it would be less efficient operation.
Genesis of
Yeah.
their questioning was the cost and,
And
cheaper and whatever.
we haven't thought about whether the chief would quit if we did that.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm just going to go back to the April 1st meeting. Whatever information you could provide to us to bring to the select board on April 1, to perhaps get a direction back, because I think that's why we're going before them. The sooner we give you direction, the better off we are, right?
Yes, that's true. I'm not even sure how to ask this question because it seems so imposing, but is there a way to shift that select board meeting so that I can be there? I don't mean to be,
I think if, and Kevin, the chair of the select board's here with us tonight, but I don't think I'd be.
He's shaking his head no.
pardon me,
Yeah, we're not-
pardon me if I shouldn't ask. That's
No,
too big of
okay.
an ask, but I
I
would-
think, I think what's been brought before the select board is just more updates. I think, we've explained as a liaison, as a member of this committee and member of the select board, I've said, we started out this process with lots of questions that needed to be answered. And much of those questions required a lot of research, work, and time.
Right.
And so, we had that January meeting where we had the 5 iterations and the 2 levels and the 3 levels. We get down in March to, the 2. decided to go with the two-level for multiple reasons. You know, so, and I said to members of the select board, now that we've come this far, the process will start to accelerate. And it's not like, you know, we're purposely leaving the townspeople or the select board out of the loop here. It's like there's nothing to tell you.
Sure.
You know, we need to do all this work. The engineers, the architects, the designers, people in the field are gathering as much information as they can in order to put something together. And so, you know, that's just the nature of the process. Now that we've got to this point, it will start to accelerate, and the Fire Rescue Station Committee will be meeting more frequently. And now we'll be able to give you the information that you're looking for. But, you know, I think there's an understanding that this is how the process works, this is where we are, and, you know, nothing's gonna get done until,
Right.
as you mentioned already, David, that the charge of this committee is to present something to the select board, which would be the decision-making body. And so we're just, you know, this committee is just going to be making decisions or recommendations, basically, based on all the things that we hear here, and then it gets turned over to the select board to make the final decisions. But, you know, there's so much input that still needs to come in, and there's so many things that still need to be worked out. And so I don't think the select board as a whole is looking to have a, you know, drop dead, you know, we need to make a decision by
So
this.
let me ask a question then. We have town meeting coming up, and don't we want to at least have a concept, Kevin?
Yeah, I think, you know, what you'll probably hear when you come on April 1st is more of a question and answer, but just keep doing what you're doing. Because I think, you know, both Mark and I, following your work, I think Finance Committee, I mean, you've got an excellent team. I said this at the last meeting. I think it'll just answer some of those questions that are out there that people may not be watching your meetings to really get a good handle on. But you're doing great. And I think the other opportunity, as David's mentioned, we'll need to do the follow-up more on community outreach. That's the more important, like, not 2 days before town meeting. But at the same time, as you're moving forward to answer those questions, I know Amanda's on, who, you know, will be putting together all kinds of support information, but we should all be aware that the one most important item on our town meeting is this project. We've actually tried to limit extraneous things. We've tried to load up what we refer to as a consent calendar, meaning the first 12 items, get those out, and let's move on to fire rescue. So we're trying to help folks by saying, the point of showing up is to support this project, and, you know, I think there'll be added opportunities, Ted, to come to the select board, maybe the 15th of April. You know, I mean, we're gonna be on a roll between now and town meeting, but again, great job, and these look awesome, they really do.
And thank you. I'm sorry to ask. I didn't mean to impose.
No,
but that's-
so that being said, is that a date that would work with the select board, if to have Ted there to be able to answer questions, the second meeting in April?
Sure. Let's do it.
And that way, we don't have that much, I can just kind of bring the board up to date.
Exactly.
And then perhaps,
Yeah.
and what day is that?
Wednesday.
April 15th.
Hannah just looked at my schedule and said I can be there, so.
Okay.
But I think it would also help us answer some of the questions you guys are asking, right? Let's look at a solar canopy. Let's do a quick calculation on how much energy we think can be generated. Back of the napkin sketch for geothermal wells. So I think some of that conversation, we need more time, because we spent the past 2 weeks getting to this. So yeah.
Rick?
I'm a firm believer in making sure that the time spent is valued. I've listened to what everyone has said here today, and it seems as if we're somewhere between the transitional and the two gables concept.
No. Well, I was gonna actually, can I interrupt you and just make a comment about, I think we should not, as a committee or whoever else is paying attention, not turn our backs on the flat roof net zero concept. It's not a structure that's without precedent around here, and it can look really nice. I think you guys could do a lot with the materials, you know, natural material, or materials that look organic to here. I mean, look at the high school. It's a ton of structures like this, and it's really neat looking. And the Eastham Library, they don't have the cottagey look in any way, but I think they're really striking and organic looking to the place. There's a lot of, as I'm sure you know, modern architecture around here that's kind of arresting. So I'm not ready to, if that's where you're going, I'm not ready
Well,
to say goodbye.
I'm feeling the same way, but I kind of took the consensus.
No, I agree with Emily 100%.
Just to piggyback on that, when we had, a few years ago, Kevin, you can maybe help me out in terms of timeline. I want to say 3 years ago, when we had our library committee looking at potential development of a new library, which, again, is in a prime spot on the corner of Main Street and 28 in downtown here. And their 3 top designs were all flat roofed.
I think we put it back to you, Ted.
Yeah,
You make a good-looking flat roof building.
Yeah, no, that's terrific. Thank you. I'm comfortable doing that.
Well, no,
And
I'm
but
serious.
But I think we can also, I think, you know, no one saw the two gables because I came up with it on Friday and people worked the weekend to get it done today. So if we have some time between now and April 1st, April 15th, we would develop them. And there was a set of sketches done in the office where it had the buildings in context, but they looked really, the sketches weren't publishable in my mind, and so I said, let's just wait. So maybe, I can't promise yet, but maybe we can start to put some of these in context, and that might help inform. Because I think Peter's comment about the scale of the fields and the scale of some of the buildings around it really make a difference. Opening up the windows on that east wall would also make a difference. So I think there's a few things that we would need to study and respond back with. I think this is, again, is all really good feedback that we can work with.
And just one more quick comment. I think if anything is coming up that we all seem to, or several people have concerns about, it's that metal roof coming right over the garages. And
Yep.
so maybe that's the one that, if we need to eliminate.
Yep. The most important voice in terms of operationally in the room is
Exactly,
someone
and
I
he
heard
said
say that. So
that.
yeah.
And I think the chief's comments on having that one bay, it
Yeah.
may make it look better, but operationally,
Yeah, we got to be careful about that.
It might
I
not
think,
work.
and I heard Jeff say that, and what I'll say is, when I literally tore the floor plan in half, and the piece with the mezzanine is what I was able to slide forward. So operationally, it works. I just haven't showed the chief and his staff that yet. I'm comfortable with it, but there may be comments and feedback that we need to go through to get that. But absolutely.
Just one last thing in terms of what Emily was talking about with that metal roof over the bays and stuff. In the iteration that you have for the net zero, isn't something like that potentially heatable so that it just melts and everything comes down as water?
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah,
you have
yeah.
driveways where you have, coils in the
Yeah.
driveway.
We would, as part of the site development, we would probably try and heat the first 10 feet of the apron on the outside anyway. So we would do that. The net zero and the transitional roofs, your smart eye, Mark, they're the same roof line and plane. Net zero is you guys advertising to the community that you're committed to net zero. It is solar panels, but it's more of an advertisement in a way. It doesn't need to be there. I don't know if it needs to be there in terms of quantity yet, but it was there to kind of mimic the transitional roof but to also make it a little bit of a billboard to say we are a net zero community. That was part of what that was about. Could that, if it were solar panels, I don't know if it would be heatable. Certainly the metal roof version would be, but then the apron 10 feet would also be heated. Yes.
but then you go back to the issue of the chief of things
Water and
falling on
such,
the
yeah.
apparatus
Yeah.
or people out in the parking lot.
Yep.
What's the square footage of the net zero flat roof? Do you remember offhand?
That
It's the
first
size of the
floor.
second floor area.
It's the size of the building, which, no, it's not the size of the.
13,700 square feet. This is basically the second floor area.
Yes, right.
So-
Right.
So, and I was just thinking, again, the storage building that we were talking about out back, if it's 100 by 30, there's 3,000 square feet of
Right.
potential solar
Right.
panels plus.
So, and if we did the
solar
canopies,
canopy.
yeah, the solar canopies could work as well.
We just had another one of those went up, I don't know if you've been down off of the industrial area in the back. There's one large, long array
Canopy.
solar panels plus another one behind the,
Right, My Generation Energy did that, yeah.
doing that whole thing down there.
Yeah, the solar
Just the
canopies are
greatest.
great. You don't have to turn your air conditioning on right away in the summer. There's less snow on the vehicles in the winter, so they're good.
So we're seeing them pop up in town.
Yep. Yep.
Yes, sir. We run a pretty loose meeting. Please come to the microphone.
David Jacobson, Energy Committee.
No, please.
David Jacobson, the liaison from the Energy Committee. It seems like we're at the point where we should be calculating what the differential is in the solar from the net zero to the other three. It's not a very difficult calculation. If the net zero gives 200,000 kilowatt hours, I think we should know by the next presentation that.
Well,
the
I'm
two-
not going to put that pressure on the architects right now, but
Okay.
I agree. I think we're working in
Yes.
baby steps toward that.
Okay.
I just,
I guess what I'm wondering, I'm asking the question, is the calculation easy enough to, at this point, you know how many square feet are on the net zero, and you also know the difference in the solar orientation of the other buildings. Is that
so
something?
that's why we're not going to put that pressure on him right now.
Okay.
It's obvious that
Yes.
we're going to come up with those numbers for
Yes.
the select board in town meeting.
Yes.
But I'm not,
Okay, I thought that would help sort of guide the decision for.
it
for-
most likely
for-
will.
For you guys.
But
Okay.
we're getting there, David.
I'll come back.
yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, no, David's right, we are gonna try and do that. It's a matter of when we can get it done. So thank you, Mark. I don't know exactly when we're gonna get that done, but that's the intent.
Just a clarification too, I said around 13,000 square feet, but it's more like 25,000 square feet. So a little bit less than the first floor footprint because of the setback.
Yeah, it's the whole, we can go back, but it's the whole
I was
roof.
not adding in the apparatus bay roof area, so it's a good amount of area.
Okay, yeah.
I guess the last thing is, what do you need from us in order for you to keep going, doing what you're doing? I mean, you have plenty of work to do. Do you need some direction? I mean, I know we're not deciding on a look.
No, thanks. I don't think there's a decision needed tonight. I think the last time I was saying I need a decision, I think this feedback that we've talked about tonight is actually really great. And I think we can move forward with this, develop the concepts. Again, these are massing studies that you have just seen this week and one of them just tonight. All of your feedback is great in terms of durability and roof type and energy loads and all of that sort of stuff. The solar canopies in the back is a piece that, and geo is something that we weren't thinking about, so we can start to fold all of that in. But I think if the comfort level is, sort of Two Gables transitional net zero, let us noodle on that along with this feedback, look at the site plans and start to fold in a few more consultants and make sure that we can start to do some of the calculations and get some, back of napkin sketches, calculations. We don't know the energy load of the building yet. We have similar loads, but we don't know the actual energy load of this until we actually design the building. And so at some point, we'll need to make a decision and say, I've either got to heat a lot more volume in Two Gables or less volume in net zero, and which matters, right? The quantity of energy that we use. So really, it's on us. I think we have some work to do, and we have to report back in a couple of weeks. I think that's kind of where we are.
Great. Kevin?
David, just a quick one to follow, and a perfect segue. You focused on net zero being solar. That's actually not the way the pyramid is built. You build the pyramid for net zero in terms of how the building is built. The building shell. Questions you asked about, is there an attic space that's going to have heat loss versus a flat roof that won't, so there's a lot of trade-offs that way. But I would also say, if anybody heads up to Hyannis, looks at the new, it's been around a few years already, but the Cape Cod 5 headquarters is a complete flat roof, beautifully designed, a lot of detail, but it's covered in solar, the entire roof, and you don't even see it. They've got, kind of a parapet that goes around. So Emily, to your point, in terms of it can be made to really fit. And, you look at the bank, you go by there and it's like, that's pretty cool.
I agree.
Come open an account.
That's good point, Kevin. Okay, any final comments from the committee? When would we like to meet next? And I'll put that to you, Ted.
So we're going to meet with the select board on the 15th.
No, well, yes. Ted and you, I'm going to work with the front office to get you on the agenda, and hopefully we can do it at the earlier end of the meeting. I'm seeing a nod from our select board chair.
Do you want to shoot for the 20th of April? How does that work with?
Well, should we review any of the materials before the 15th meeting or not?
Yeah.
The selectmen, I think we should.
Well, that's where I'm.
I mean, I guess,
It would be nice for the committee to meet once before the 15th, just to be comfortable with, or at least give you a good direction for the select board, because that's a tough select board.
I mean, in terms of production time, in terms of us getting some things done, I would say the earliest would be the 13th, which
Could
would
we do that? The
see,
13th
you guys
and
would
the
see it on the
15th?
13th. Wouldn't give us time to change anything
No, I
before
don't
we
think
saw before select board, but yeah, 13th would work.
I think that would be great.
I think Chief Daring has to let me sleep in the fire station until the 15th. I think that's, do a ride along.
So I will not be able to attend the 13th, but it's all Ted's material anyway, but I will be here for the 15th,
Great.
okay?
That's excellent. With that being said, could I have a motion to adjourn?
David, could I bring up one more item?
Oh, sorry, Chief.
Sorry, just real quick, we are hosting a number of fire department, fire rescue station open houses coming up. I just want to make sure those are out there. Wednesday, March 25th, Monday, March 30th, Tuesday, April 7th, Wednesday, April 15th, before the select board meeting, and Friday, April 24th, and there's more to come, but myself and members of the fire department staff will be there to answer questions and things like that for people who.
And that list is on the town
Yes.
website, the
Thank you,
page.
David. I was just going to say that.
The page you open up, there's a banner right at the top, and everything you need to know about the fire station is there. Thank you, Amanda. Okay, motion to close.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Roll call, because we got.
Oh, roll call, okay. Mark, Reel,
Mark Real, aye.
Chief,
Jeff Deering, aye.
Rich Waldo, aye.
Peter
Yes,
Canine, aye.
yes, aye.
David Little, aye.
Kathy McNamara, aye.
Emily Miller, aye.
Mark Matheson, aye.
Okay.